Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma. His name's Mr. Brian E. Roach. As you can probably tell, I'm not going to ask Brian how he is. Brian's probably not going to ask how I am. I'm trying to be better than Brian, but I also had some driving to do, whereas Brian didn't, where I got to cool off a little bit. Brian is still in the cooling down period. Brian, there's usually a reason why they tell you to sleep on it for 24 hours before responding, but here we are.
That's it. That's all I got. A big sigh.
All right.
Where do I begin?
And I know we have some. We were talking offline. We've been talking back and forth since the game, during the game, after the game. Some things you're going to say that we may disagree on, and I think it's more semantics. I think we agree. I want to preface this. It's almost like the disclaimer. This is like the thing where you're watching a 2-minute long. It's the new drug or pharmaceutical thing that comes out, and they're like, this may cause, this is probably going to cause people to comment and say, look, I think most of the people that are going to jump in the comments are probably going to be correct this time. I'm not going to argue with you, and I'm not even arguing with Brian. Brian was talking about all these things with defense. I'm like, none of what I'm saying is excusing the other crap that we saw on the field Sunday night. It was a tale of two halves, in my opinion, but still, even that first half left some things to be desired. So where do we start at? I think we said in our keys to the game, don't let Josh Jacobs run all over you. I guess that's one positive thing you could take from this game until you see that Jordan Love
the other guy did
all over. Yeah, well, the other guy
Plus,
did
the
too.
other guy did.
The other guy did.
The other
too.
guy ran all over him later.
And you know what? The Steelers ran well when they ran the ball also, to be completely honest. This was the second best rushing defense. There's a lot of negative to say, so just to get through it.
Oh my God! Yes.
To begin, is I have two players, maybe three, because maybe special teams could be exonerated entirely. Chris Boswell is a GOAT. He's just kicking balls from 54, 56, whatever. If it's out on the paint, he doesn't care if he's kicking from the logo. But I feel like there's two players who didn't quit in this game, and then everybody else, we're going to get to a turning point. I called it momentum. You called it an excuse. It's still a turning point in this game. Two guys that didn't quit. I cannot blame this game on Aaron Rodgers. And I'm going to say that Jalen Ramsey also didn't quit. I feel like there were a lot of other guys with hands on hips in the fourth quarter. And there was just like there's this dark cloud over Pittsburgh where shit hits the fan. And as much as Mike Tomlin wants to talk about facing adversity, this, that, or the other thing, iron sharpening iron, whatever. This team this season, when they face adversity, has been unable to address the adversity. So,
yes, they're adversity. Yeah, no, adverse to adversity.
They are adverse to, well, yeah, what you said. I'm not going to repeat you. I'm trying not to get too deep into this, but Jalen Warren, one positive, 4.8 yards per carry. That was nice to see. Kenneth Gainwell, he has a turnover in this game. He was a nice change of pace until he wasn't. That was one of the dagger where you're just like, okay, maybe they could generate something, get back in this the way that they jumped right back in and got a lead in Cincinnati. But just like back with Cincinnati, there were certain patterns that this defense, I don't know what goes on with the zones. Like, they just watch guys run around and catch the ball. And then I would say they go tackle them. And that's where I heard somebody talk about this on XM. I think it was Ryan Leaf with Solomon Wilcots this morning. And that's where I disagreed. It was like, it's hand fighting, it's tag, it's flag football. They're gearing up for the Olympics that's going to have the new flag football, if these guys are capable of even making that team, It's bad. The yards after the catch, an absolute killer. And I guess maybe we start this off. I know we went through some statistics, Kraft, tight end, catches 7 of 9 targets, 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did not like the one on Elliott. There's the whole turning point. I'll get into that after. You have maybe one bright spot with Roman Wilson. He gets like a garbage time touchdown. He got the real nice Roger scrambles. He releases, gets downfield, adjusts, makes a beautiful catch. And there's not like a lot to really even be positive about. I'm actually more worried about this team now, not only given the performance, but now you've got Deshaun Elliott hurt. You don't know if that's season threatening, and he was already injured to begin with, and we thought, well, if Elliott comes back, you could fix this. We don't know if he'll be back. We don't know if there's any way to fix this. And the offensive line had to change. The offense had to change some of their gears too, with Isaac Seumalo getting hurt. Spencer Anderson, the extra guy who catches a pass.
Yes.
Which was crazy. It's like he threw it to him. I didn't think Rodgers knew it. I think when he went to pump fake and he was like, uh-oh. He looks at his empty hand like I let go of the ball. But now you have him in there, and it's like you just can't throw somebody else out to do what this guy's doing in the playbook too. So you just had, I felt like there was a lot of things that need cleaned up the last 2 games. Obviously, Brian, you'll get into all the yards and points the defense is giving up. I'm just going to point out some of the penalties and pre-snap stuff, like an illegal shift, an illegal formation. False starts are going to be part of the game here or there, but it just feels like they really shot themselves in the foot the last 2 games. And the officiating crews that have been part of the last 3 have seemed to be some flag-happy crews that are inconsistent, nitpicky. They might not call the same thing on the same side of the field. They may not call as the same as the guys did the week before. And you just can't do that. They got away with it against Cleveland because they were able to take care of everything else.
Because Cleveland.
And it's Cleveland. And it's Cleveland. But you can't have that happen. Because there will be times where you've got to play better than what happens with the flag or the whistle on the field, and they were not up to that level on Sunday night.
Let me just start with this. They're bad. They're just bad. I'll give you my positives. I thought the offense did enough to win the game, right? I felt like the offense scored enough points to win the game. They were not perfect. They weren't 100% pretty, but they were able to move the ball. Yes, they need to convert. They need to score 7 instead of 3. You can't win games with Boz kicking 5 field goals or 4 field goals. You need to get into the end zone more often than they did. Had they, the game probably goes the other direction. But the real problem here is unlike past years where we were blaming everything on the offense, this year we're blaming everything on the defense. And this is, if not the most expensive defense, the second most expensive defense in the league. They pay more money for these guys than they do for anything else. And one of the things I said to you is value for dollars, they're absolutely the worst piece of trash out there. You're not getting any value for the money you're spending right now. It's all levels, right? It is all levels of the defense that is failing. I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again. This defense works best when they get the ball turned over. Why? Because it covers up for mistakes. They make a lot of mistakes. And if they can turn the ball over, it makes up for that. When they don't get turnovers, they get smoked. And that's just the way it's been this year. And it's been more blatantly obvious this year than even in years past. Communication issues, bad tackling, bad assignments, not playing the ball well, just a complete breakdown from the defensive side. And I've said this to you. I said it all morning. I will keep repeating it. They are a terrible defense right now. If they're not the worst defense in the league right now, there is nobody afraid to play this team right now. Collingsworth called them bullies. They are not bullies. They're not.
And you watched it.
They may want to be.
You watched it. I was there. I didn't get to hear that, but I chuckled when you told me that. I said, really?
They're not bullying anybody. And, I'll get into this more later after we've talked through this. But this is Yeah, I said I was going to be concerned. I said before the game, they could win the game if the defense cleans things up. But if they don't clean the defense up, I'm not sure who they can beat, other than Cleveland.
Well, you had asked me, who do you think, did they beat anybody? And I said Browns. Maybe the Bears, after what we saw what Chicago did in Baltimore.
Maybe. I'm not confident they beat the Dolphins anymore.
Oh, man, the Dolphins. And that just goes
the Dolphins just lit up Atlanta.
Well, I was going to say that. We're talking about what could be fixed, what can you fix, what could be done in a week. And we've sat here other times with just dumbfounded looks on our faces, which isn't too uncommon, to be honest. But and we're like, what can this team do to change their misfortunes? And then all of a sudden they go out the following week and somehow they do it. And you have absolutely zero explanation as to why. And it just kind of happens. It falls into place. I think there's going to be some changes. I think Tomlin sounds perturbed. I wish there'd be some changes. I don't know what you could do if you changed with coaches, for example. What are you going to do? Is Terrell Austin really the guy calling plays? Is he just a scapegoat? Is this Tomlin's product? Is it both their fingerprints on it? I know Terrell Austin's defenses have been horrible in years past, and it's kind of hard to believe that if Mike Tomlin was said architect of all of this, and let's say even going back, maybe Dick LeBeau, he didn't have as much say, but there's Dick LeBeau, there's Keith Butler. Those defenses were so much better. They had their periods where they weren't good. Terrell Austin's never had a period where any of his defenses have been any good, and he's brought that same stench and poison, and it has now infected what is the highest paid defense in the NFL, or like you said, it's one of. You've got a guy, I know people talk about where's TJ Watt, what's going on with TJ Watt. There's only so much you can count on with one guy. I maybe unfairly said that he quit. He was still playing, he was still punching after the ball, but there's only so much he could do when Jordan Love could get rid of the ball in 2 seconds. And the secondary doesn't do their job. Guys in the middle of the field like Patrick Queen, Cole Holcomb, Peyton Wilson, every level has its issues. If the secondary could kind of cover a little bit, we saw they got home and Love throws up a prayer, and the secondary, it's like, the center fielder's like, where's the ball? And it's like one of those things where it falls and everybody runs the bases, and that's exactly what happened. And on more than one occasion, I do think there's some things that could be fixed. I don't know if I want to go into that now or if I want to wait for our Colts preview, because the Colts preview could be pretty short. But I don't think you could take TJ off the field. But I think
you can't. What are you going to do? Put Jack Sawyer in?
No. But I think you could put Nick Herbig in more than you have the last 2 games. Someone capable of creating some splash. I think you reevaluate Queen, Wilson, Holcomb, snap shares. They've already started to kind of shy away from Darius Slay for Brandon Echols. We don't know what Deshaun Elliott's prognosis looks like, but they had to go to Jabril Peppers. And I'll tell you what, Jabril Peppers has a little bit of fire under his ass, I think, too, because he's a guy that's, it was almost out of the league. I see him out there. I see him communicating. I see him telling people where to go. And I'm like, that's the guy you need on that in this locker room, on the field, on this team. I don't know that I see Chuck Clark do that stuff as much, or a Juan Thorn. And I'm not sure if Juan Thornhill, you start the season with those guys, it doesn't work. Then you have Clark, who's just inactive for one game entirely. So I don't know how you do that with the secondary. Some people are saying instead of a wide receiver, speaking of which, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, someone was reporting this, that he was going to visit with the Steelers today. And where does he fit into all this? I think, that one pass to Kelvin Austin from Aaron Rodgers was a laser beam. You end up getting the pass interference call on it. But those passes, Roman Wilson, those guys are fast. Wilson and Austin are. So, that's what you got to be up against when you're the Steelers defense. And it just seemed very flat-footed. You've talked about age. I don't know that age always dictates everything, because I wouldn't say TJ Watt's too old at his position. Is Cam Hayward getting there? Cam Hayward, we said age like a fine wine until it turns sour. And then, that's just what happens with anybody. It's nothing against Cam or anything. I'm not saying that Cam is playing poorly. But Darius Slay is giving me Patrick Peterson vibes from a few years ago. Jalen Ramsey, you were saying whether he could be a cover corner. I mean, I think Jalen Ramsey's a hell of a football player. I think he's a great fit for the team. But I think there's certain things that you are just asking too much of this guy. He cannot do it all. You cannot ask TJ to do it all. I am ready for, I guess I'll get into it. I'm ready for maybe Keanu Benton to see some of his playing time limited a little more. I'm ready to see Derek Harmon and YA Black out there a bit more. Let's go in that direction. Let's see if Eccles can play a little better than Slay. Try and find the right safety combo. If that's Peppers kind of playing more, is Peppers more of a run stuffing type of guy? So be it, whatever it be. I was looking for Holcomb some more too. If, you know, Queen's got the contract, Highsmith's got the contract over Herbig. There is a bit of that comes into this. We talked about this years ago with the quarterbacks. Why are you going to play Mason Rudolph over Mitchell Trubisky when Kenny Pickett gets knocked out with a concussion? Because Trubisky has the higher dollar contract, and now you've got to make those coaching justifications to the guy who signs the checks. And those same justifications need to be made to a general manager and a team owner at these levels too. But I think now that you've seen the result, now that it's almost kind of like, I need to show you, because telling you, you're just not learning that way. You need to see it for yourself. And then you go, oh, maybe we should see Nick Herbig a little more. Maybe we should see so-and-so a little more. I don't know if that fixes anything. It is completely, once again, spitballing on short week. What can you do to make any kind of changes? I think did I send this to you? I said, I feel like they're an undersized 4-3 defense at the way they play sometimes.
You did.
And it's just, I don't know that necessarily works, but it depends on the guys that you have out there. I see Black and Harmon get out there one time, and all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, the pocket's getting moved. You know what I mean? There's a collapse. Two guys have to grab one. It's not just everybody can focus their attention and make sure TJ Watt is a non-factor.
Yeah, Look, because I've talked to you about TJ too, and I have been critical of TJ. I did some comparison of his first 7 games last year versus his first 7 games this year. It's not that dramatically different. 4.5 sacks last year, 4 sacks this year. Tackles are very close. Tackles for loss are very close. He's got an interception this year that he didn't have for the first 7 games last year. The problem is his presence doesn't seem to be getting felt the same way, right? You just don't notice him. And what I felt like happened last year is even when he wasn't getting home, you noticed him on the field. And right now, he is an afterthought. And I'm not saying, I don't know. I have no idea. I've read reports that TJ's been dealing with nagging injuries ever since training camp. Abdominal injuries, lower body injuries, that he's playing through pain. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's speculation, right? TJ's not calling me up and telling me, hey, my ankle really hurts and it's been really a problem. I don't know.
Just text it to you.
Yeah, but, it is clear that he is not the player he was, right? Or at least he's not performing in that light. So, you're right. You can't take him off the field, but he simply isn't producing. Not the same way guys like Myles Garrett, who had 5 sacks yesterday, are producing.
Yeah, those were some of those weren't impressive by any means. It
doesn't matter whether they're impressive.
Well, no, it does.
Pressured. He's there.
When PFF tells you that this guy's a defensive player of the year because of quality.
I'm talking about real stats. I'm not talking about PFF bullshit stats.
I know, they're talking about quality, but I did roll my eyes. I saw a lot of that Browns game, and then he went and sat at the end of the bench and pouted like, he couldn't add somebody to his graveyard.
But
so
here's the thing. He got 5 sacks. I'm not saying that PFF grades matter because they don't. But if legitimately he got 5 sacks, Micah Parsons had 3 last week. He got in this week. But even when he didn't get in, he was a factor. There's no question that Micah Parsons impacted that game yesterday, and there's no question that TJ Watt did not. I know Micah's younger. Okay, I get that.
Well, not only that,
that's a problem.
They get creative with him too. They move him around. He was supposed to be an inside linebacker originally. I feel like they move him around. I feel like he'll come into his stride. He's still new with that team. I feel like TJ is almost like the same thing. I mean, even to the fact of where we used to talk about TJ doesn't have this particular statistical anomaly because he drops into coverage. Does it feel like he drops into coverage? I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I feel like it. I just feel like something's completely off.
Speak of that, Collingsworth noted Micah Parsons drops into coverage on a tight end. He's saying this, right? And the play he's showing, he didn't cover the tight end at all. It was a complete nonsensical
he's the
statement.
Owner of Pro Football Focus too.
It was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. He's like, "Oh, look, watch Micah Parsons. Even when he's not getting the quarterback, he's going to drop and cover this tight end because he recognizes it." No, the tight end runs away from him. He goes after Aaron Rodgers. It's like there's no coverage there. It was the dumbest thing ever. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a rant about Chris Collinsworth because he was the least offensive thing about that game yesterday.
You know what though? I'll say this much: tale of two halves. And it did feel like at times, like you were saying, it's like you're holding on by a thread. But Steelers kicked the ball first, 3 and out. Got a 3 and out to start. Fantastic. They get on the field, 7 plays, 52 yards. The penalty slows them a little bit. Settle for a field goal. Okay. Green Bay comes back, scores rather easily, I might say. 6 plays, 67 yards. You're like, okay. Steelers punt. Green Bay drives. 7 plays, 43 yards, missed a field goal. Okay, back that word, momentum. Now you've got, and I will say this much, Brian, there are a lot of Packers fans traveled. There was crowd noise too, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There was definitely, that's the most that I've heard personally since 49ers. That might be one of the top ones. I can't even say the Buffalo fans, even though they're there. I don't know if it was as loud going back to, the last few years, especially like that one game they flexed with Duck Hodges. But 49ers fans were there, vocal, and Dallas Cowboys many, many years ago when Zeke was still running around and everything like that, when they couldn't stop him back then either. So, but the Steelers they have 2 drives that end with, they get down to Green Bay 38, 32, 29. Then they, 2 field goals, and then they punch in a touchdown, whereas the second quarter for the Packers were 2 missed field goals, 2 punts. Now, that final 2-minute kind of drill, or less than a minute, they got it with like 34 seconds left. That was far too freaking easy. And I was just like, well, they're playing off the ball, and I'm just like, what the hell?
I told you this in
give them like a
text. Here's the
freebie.
thing. The Steelers' defense did not stop the Packers at all. The Packers stopped the Packers. They dropped the ball. They didn't complete the catch. There was no effort there of, oh, what a great pass breakup by them. It wasn't, nobody was ever calling that out. It's like, oh yeah, he dropped that ball. Oh, it's a drop. Oh, it didn't work because he dropped the ball. Well, eventually they started catching them. And guess what? It was now all of a sudden you can't stop them at all because now they're catching the ball. If your great scheme on defense is the other team will drop the ball, you're in deep shit.
Yeah, and you know what? That's why I say it's a tale of 2 halves, because what did the Steelers end up doing in the second half? The same thing. Dropping passes, not connecting, a bunch of 3 and outs. You had the one drive for a field goal, you get behind the 8 ball, and then you end up with the fumble. Good time to address it now, though. The turning point in that game, I feel, was the offside. Just poorly missed. And I've got something corny as hell to tell you about Sean Hockley and his crew, too. It was like 4th quarter. These guys get together, and they put their hands in a pile like they're a team. Like teammates. Like I had that picture just a little bit ago. Where was it? The Steelers are, they're all huddled in their masks, like their little pregame, right? But this is like the 4th quarter, and it's like, okay, guys, we've got to concentrate. We're gonna do this. We're not gonna screw up this game. Everybody get together. 1, 2, 3, referees. And it's like, huh? Like, I don't mind the teamwork, but at this point, this game was this close to there being punches thrown and them completely losing control of
multiple times. Yeah.
And it's because the frustrations of when you have inconsistent calls. I didn't bring this up on the show before. We were talking about this in the back rooms. DK Metcalf shoves off. I'm not saying it's the wrong call. I'm just saying it doesn't get called nearly consistently enough, frequently enough. And when you do get it called against you after watching Jamar Chase and T. Higgins do it a dozen times the game before, or you see Tucker Kraft and Deshaun Elliott kind of getting it and mixing it up, and all of a sudden Kraft can go all the way down the field. Elliott's got to go chase him, and then the worst of worst happens. He goes to make the play and then ends up getting hurt and might be done for the season for as far as we know. That's the stuff that pisses me off highly. You miss a call one way or the other. You were talking about one. I didn't see it. It was on TV. It's like, okay, if it balances out, fine, whatever. fantastic. It was not as obvious. Rodgers picks the throw down the field, I think, to Roman Wilson based on, can we get a big gain? I drew him offside. This is the thing that Aaron Rodgers does. Fires it, looks for the big play, no big deal. Gets picked, flag's got to be thrown. Everybody's looking around. This is like, I can't tell you there's ever been a moment where I've seen not just like a quarterback, everybody on the offensive line looked around, like Zach Frazier. Everybody, they're like, their body language is telling you something is wrong. And when you start to feel cheated like that, then you compound that with Jordan Love actually gets pressured after this. And he throws up this prayer, and he threw up more than one. And he's throwing up these prayers the few times he does feel the heat. And like I said, they're like staring in the lights. Where's the ball? Which way did he go? And you completely miss it, and it's a big play somehow that's made by the Green Bay receivers or Kraft, the tight end. That just, it demoralizes you, and I think in a way I didn't like to see, though, that immediately it's like sunken, sullen, shoulders, hands on hips. Joey Porter Jr., man, they don't really throw at Joey a lot, I've noticed. I'm going to say that Joey's been pretty good in coverage, right? They've been picking on Darius Slay when Darius Slay's been in. But when they do throw it anywhere near Joey's like, like patty cake or something with the tackles. And I don't know, like maybe this is the way it's being coached with the Steelers, but they go for that splash play. They go to slap at the ball, rip at the ball. Take the dude to the ground. You let him get like an extra 6, 8, 10, whatever many yards, breaks a tackle, 10 more yards, and a first down. And what? That's frustrating to the nth degree. That's what's got to stop. And I don't know. You said at the beginning of last season, when it comes to TJ Watt, you bring that up, and I'm like, what changed really with the beginning of last season? Remember, they were holding these teams to 16 points a game or something like that until they weren't. And then the offense couldn't do anything. Offense is still not absolved here. Jonnu drops like a 2-point conversion. It seems like some of the guys who have the contracts aren't as hungry here. And I'm going to call out DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, middling. Patrick Queen, I question. Ramsey, hungry. Watt, middling. Herbig, a guy that's hungry. Alex Highsmith, can't tell, man. I don't know if he wants to eat or not. I really can't. Where the hell's it? Where's his name been? Cam asked for more money in the offseason. Cam, you coming to eat or not? You coming to feast or not? But you got guys like Roman Wilson and Kelvin Austin are willing to make plays. Jalen Warren still balling people. Jalen Warren, instead of running out of bounds with 3 Packers by him, cut in and went to find somebody to hit. He is nuts. But that's the kind of player that I want. I don't want the guys that are like, there's a little bit of contact. I'm just not going to make that kind of play. That's got to get weeded out. And I don't know, when you're dealing with professional athletes, millionaires, a coach of Tomlin's demeanor, if that's going to get fixed and how fast or soon you can fix it.
There are so many problems on the defensive side of the ball right now. I mean, look, let's not pretend that wasn't the tag on Joey Porter Jr. when he came out of Penn State, was that tackling was an issue. He was going to avoid contact. Yes, he can cover. He's going to be handsy, and he's not going to want to tackle. So that was a known quantity, right? And you accept it, hopefully, because hopefully the coverage is good enough, and you don't get so many penalties that you regret it. But I agree with you. I don't think Joey's the problem right now. I think it's easy to pick on Darius Slay. When Ramsey is forced to be a corner, I think you pick on Ramsey. He's not making those kind of plays either. As a slot, I think he does a decent job, especially in run support. Coverage, it just doesn't seem like it's there. I think the safeties are a mess. Without Deshaun Elliott, it's a bigger mess. But there's not anybody to pair with him, even when he is playing. They just look disjointed. They don't look like a solid, communicative, cohesive unit. And it's a mess. It's just a mess. Let me say this. the thing is, there is no quick fix, right? I get it's a trade deadline, but you're not going to trade for a corner someplace else that's suddenly going to make the defense more cohesive. That's not going to happen. You're not going to trade for a linebacker or a defensive lineman that suddenly the defense, they went and ate the Lucky Charms and it was magically delicious. And now they all know exactly where everybody's supposed to go and what they're supposed to do. And it's a beautiful thing. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And we talked about pride, and I think on the last show, you felt like these guys have to have some pride, and want to show up. And man, it just didn't happen. I walked through the schedule today, and I can see this team going 6-11 now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not. I think that Mike Tomlin finds some way all the time and then something works, but then it makes you wonder, why didn't they do this the first time? And we were just talking communication. I had to sneeze on the other on the things that might not get caught on the mic, but you got a lot of new moving parts on this team that didn't play in the preseason, and now they're together. Now you got to move them again. I think Ramsey has a future playing safety for sure. Now, does this mean you get somebody, do you call in a Corey Trice, or do you have James Pierre play some more? Do you find Beanie Bishop off the practice squad and have somebody play an actual slot corner position? I mean, this all went to crap too when Cam Sutton came in last year, and then all of a sudden, and there was kind of a scapegoat there. Minka was a scapegoat there. I think some of these things just get figured out, and I have to call this out because I don't agree with it. Jerry Dulac, he tweets out, "There's nothing wrong with the Steelers' offense that a good defense couldn't fix." Jerry, offense has got to, number one, if they convert for touchdowns instead of field goals in the first half, this game's out of reach. Okay.
It's a different dynamic. Agreed.
How many games have they led time of possession this year? 1, 2, maybe?
Yeah.
How many games have they given up 30-plus points? 5. Sorry, Jerry. The offense is doing better than... Put this offense on the team 2 years ago where Kenny Pickett was struggling to get a first down. And I think they pick up a few extra victories easily. In fact, there was some talk. I think Adam Schefter, I think it was Adam Schefter. I saw a little rumbling of it yesterday morning. It's one of those Sunday early things that the Steelers were interested in perhaps talking to Aaron Rodgers about maybe coming back for another year. I don't necessarily
people have said that. Yes,
I don't hate the idea if he could survive the remainder of this season. I think he has looked. He's looked good, and until you have Samuel go down and you kind of scrap it, and now you're playing behind the 8 ball. You're losing by 2 scores, and now the Packers could go. They could pin their ears back and come. He was upright. You know what I mean? He was able to do what he needs to do, but some of that, the screens, of course, were part of keep Parsons away, keep Gary away, keep Quay Walker away, and I'll have to say that too. We're bringing up Walker's name. Something that happened off the ball, and DK Metcalf got completely tagged for it. You got to keep. I know it's frustrating, and there's the emotions that we were talking about, and this nearly popping off. But you're not doing your team any favors by getting the personal foul or unsportsmanlike conduct or any of these other penalties that you're picking up at the end of the game. It's like, come on, let's be. He's a grown-ass man. Act like it, please. Some people were trying to liken him to like George Pickens, and I'm like, I watched DK.
No, it's not that bad.
DK turned his back after that. The flag was thrown. He turned his back and just walked away. He didn't jaw with the officials. He didn't continue trying to instigate anything. So I'm going to let that go for now. If we see repeated patterns, come back, revisit it. We'll bring it up, and then we'll talk about it. But within the heat of the moment, within a frustrating game, I totally feel it. Just I don't know. Now if you got to play,
this is the thing.
Yeah,
this is the thing. This offense they can only be successful if they stay on track, right? If they stay on schedule. And it was more evident last night than it's been in any other game. When they have adversity on offense, they put themselves in a bad position. They get a holding call, an offsides call. They go from second and medium to second and long, or second and longer, or first and longer. They're in trouble, right? They're not built for that. This is the side of the ball that is built to be bullying. right? They want to be jumbo package and run it down your throat, and then let that predicate the throws happening and play off of play action. But when they get in those situations where they're off schedule, they don't have good answers for it. They don't have enough dynamicism.
That thing.
They're not dynamic enough.
The
they don't have that kind of dynamic offense that they can just go, all over the place. And it is the more frustrating thing to see is it just feels like this is true every single week. Everybody's open on the other side of the ball, and we can't get away from anybody and have anybody open.
You're not lying. You're not lying. And I thought, even some of that, I thought offensively, Linger from Matt Canada, you got rid of some of those guys that had some of the lazy play in their bones. Pickens giving up on a route, Deontay not going for combat catches. You weeded some of that, I think, out of the locker room, turn a whole new leaf. I am concerned. Let's see if Spencer, you had this offensive line healthy and all playing together, and then Samalu tried to come back in, so maybe it was preventative. We don't know. We'll have to hear what Tomlin's got to say in his press conference. But it's a blow then if you can't run like you're saying. You want to play some bully ball, you want to bring an extra offensive lineman in, you want to bring Darnell Washington in, and now you've got to shuffle the deck because Spencer Anderson's the next guy up to play at Sayamalu's spot. Maybe that's the way they were intending it. Maybe you get a sneak preview of what next year could be. I like Spencer Anderson. He could be one of those guys you find in a late round or like the undrafted, like a Ramon Foster. Maybe he's a contributor. Then again, maybe he's not. I really felt like the line had been playing pretty decently. They opened holes in certain ways. You see Warren and Gainwell have some success, so you just got to sustain some drives. And I think, and it's not like, how many passes did Rodgers throw? Let me see here. Rodgers was 36 passes, 24, 36, and then they get behind. He's still completing almost 67% of his passes, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? But you want to see Jalen Warren has 13 carries, Kenneth Gainwell has 5 for a grand total of 18. You want some winning Steelers football, you got to possess the ball. You got to shoot. You got to run the football. You got to choose some clock. That's what the upcoming game, the upcoming opponent, Indianapolis Colts, do. They give it to Jonathan Taylor and just let him go to town. And then Daniel Jones, they could run their play action. They could run. They've got a whole platoon of young wide receivers and stuff. We'll be talking about that later this week. Worried is definitely the case. It's good to see the Steelers. They get 25 at some garbage points. It's good to see that they're not struggling to they're only putting up 9 points. It's all Boswell, right? But still, it's far from perfect. You got to convert, and if they convert early, they get the ball to start that second half. Maybe they just run. They eat up like 7 or 8 minutes just right out of the gate, and I don't know.
Absolutely could have gone a different way if
definitely
those 3 field goals are 3 touchdowns, right? All of a sudden it's 28 to 10 or whatever instead of 19 to whatever,
and
or whatever the score was.
It's still sticking in my craw, the offside throw, because then the whole thing with Kraft and then Elliott getting hurt, and that whole doesn't happen because Green Bay doesn't have the ball. They don't get the ball. You know what I mean? That's what still is a turning point and just gets to me. Really, when you look at these games, how many plays? What are the big plays that decide everything? You're not like, 1st and 10, Jalen Warren for a gain of 3. No, and how many of those? Those are a dime a dozen, those plays. Even if you go on the other side of the football and it's Josh Jacobs, or there's a little, don't get me started with quick outs or whatever. The outs were just killing them, you know what I mean? But little pitches and catch here or there. No, it's these big plays that we're talking about where it's just a heave and you end up connecting it. Roman Wilson got one of those on the Steelers side of things. Those are the plays, and then when you have something like that happen, and essentially it's turnover because now you're punting the ball away. You know what I mean? So it is something that's detrimental. They got to learn to clean some of this up. I do have to preface this again that I'm not saying you said this and I was like, yeah, I still agree. I'm pissed off at the officiating. They're not the cause or the reason the Steelers lost, but they gave a little nudge to that snowball going downhill, and then it caught everything else down along the way. I thought the first half defense, of course, there were some drops. There was some heavier pressure, which contributes to some of those drops. A player in Jordan Love's face. I thought they did some things better but they couldn't do it for a whole game. And of course, when your offense, it wasn't the biggest disparity in time of possession, but it was, well, it's almost 4 minutes actually, 31-48 to 28-12. So I guess it was a little more than I thought. But Packers putting up 454 yards, 63 plays, 7.2 average. That's the type of stuff that's unacceptable. 22 first downs. Like, I know we went
Jordan Love completed 20 passes in a row.
Oh yeah,
20 passes in a row.
Yeah,
and none of them was a contested catch. Not one. They were easy.
that's the problem. Easy. And then you look and you're watching around the AFC North and you see Tyler Huntley come in. I know the Ravens came off a bye and they're still playing at home. They've been playing at home forever, and the Bears have to go there. But you saw what they do. They get a little healthier. They get guys like Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey back, and they win a game, and they put up 30 points. They get 30 points, and then the Browns do the things the Browns do, but then the Bengals lose to the winless Jets in what was
I don't understand.
Was a struggle. And I'm just like, I know the Steelers only lost by 2. The Steelers turned the ball over more, and they didn't generate anything. Defensively, again, that's the story. But man, you look at that as a Steelers fan, it's like a double. You get kicked from behind, you turn around, what? And then somebody kicks you from front, and you're like, what? And that was the Bengals losing to the Jets was the extra kick there, with also losing to the Packers yesterday and having lost to the Bengals the week before. So
it keeps them in first place another week. The fact that the Bengals lost, they will not lose next week. I think they play the Dolphins. They're not.
Well, no, the Ravens have the Dolphins in Miami,
okay.
So they finally go on the road 2-5 versus 2-6. But Miami, who thought they were going into Atlanta and putting any kind? Atlanta,
they're not beating the Ravens.
What, the Dolphins? Not. I mean, I would be highly surprised. We'll see if Lamar Jackson's back either, if that's a whole charade. The Falcons dropped the 3-4, and they were playing great defense and everything too. And then they have to play Kirk Cousins. I know that's a little bit of a part of it, but you got the best team in football coming to Acrisure next week, 7-1 by record at least. I know people have said, who have the Colts played? I'm like, yeah, but they took care of business, and they've not only taken care of business, but they have. Most of those have been statements that they've made against, let's say, a subpar, like the Titans. If you want to prove that you're a good team, do you beat the Titans like something like 23-21, or do you you lay like 40 points on them or whatever they did, 38-14. That's what you do. You hold them to only 7 points through 3 quarters of football. That's what you do. You want to make that statement, that's how you make that statement. So Steelers are going to have to do something different with that. The Bengals gave up 23 points to the Jets in the fourth quarter. Like, yeah, like how?
Look, to be fair to the Bengals, that 2-point conversion was not good.
That was rough.
It wasn't good.
That was really rough. That was rough. That was really rough. And I mean, you see it throughout anywhere. We were texting each other through those first games too, and I was just like, I just had somebody who was playing the Bears defense thinking that they were going to feast on the Ravens in fantasy, and then I didn't play Boswell, so that was a problem for me, and I will never make that mistake ever again. Sorry, Boz. I didn't like this matchup. I just thought it was going to be maybe more shootout-esque, maybe not settle for field goals, or maybe that the Packers defense was just going to put the clamps down. I had too many eggs in the Steelers basket, and I just didn't want that extra one. That was the wrong one to do. Too many teams on bye too, Brian, but I know you're not the big fantasy guy, so that'll do it for us. Hopefully we are not the matchup that everyone's looking at next week, where everybody's like, hey, play Tyler Warren, play Jonathan Taylor, play Daniel Indiana Jones. Like,
I 100% guarantee that's what people are looking at right now.
Oh yeah, everybody's FanDuel lineup's going to be chalked up with Indianapolis Colts players. So oh boy. So folks, hang around, leave us some comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back later this week with that preview for the 7-1 Colts coming to face the what are the Steelers, 4-3, at least 2 of the losses in the NFC. So there may still be hope there if they could eke out some more conference and division wins here. But man, there's nothing you can feel confident about. We're going to do this preview from the whole we try and be sunshine and rainbows, try and be biased, try and be why the Steelers are going to win this. I had somebody like, what's your prediction last night? I was like, when we do these before the season, we say they're going to go 17-0. Like, no, we're not thinking that right now. I don't know that there's anything encouraging until we see it happen. So we're back in that situation where I anticipate them losing now every single week until they prove to me that they can stop somebody. Yeah, we'll see, folks. Once again, that'll do it for us on this show. Leave us your comments. I'm sure we agree. There's probably things I've left off of here. We didn't get into too many more stats. It is ugly game when you're giving up, what is it, like 900 yards in the last 2 games and 30 plus points a piece to these. It's, and one of those is Joe Flacco. So till next time, we'll see if there's anything more encouraging to say on the pregame show. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. Till next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.